Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Wednesday, July the 23rd. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local share market is set to open positively with ASX futures up almost 0.5%. It was a day of mixed fortunes for global markets, with European shares weighed down by disappointing earnings and anxiety over the lack of progress in US trade negotiations. On Wall Street, the Dow gained while the Nasdaq lost ground and the S&P edged higher ahead of highly anticipated earnings results from Alphabet and Tesla. Shares in carmaker GM tumbled after it reported a $1 billion hit from tariffs to its quarterly results, fueling investor concerns about the Trump administration's global trade policy. GM's second quarter core profit fell 32% to $3 billion. Shares of rival Ford also fell. Alphabet and Tesla climbed a day before their quarterly results. Among the other big tech stocks, Meta and Microsoft both fell. Shares of RTX dropped after the aerospace and defence giant suffered from tariffs despite strong demand for its engines and aftermarket services. Lockheed Martin shares tumbled after its quarterly profit plunged by about 80%. And Philip Morris slumped after reporting second quarter revenue below expectations, while Coke's quarterly estimates beat expectations, boosted by higher prices, even as volumes dropped in key markets. And oilfield services company Halliburton forecast a sharp decline in full-year revenue after posting a 33% fall in profit for the second quarter due to softer than expected demand. Well, the latest US data shows the Philadelphia Fed non-manufacturing index improved but remains in contraction, up from -25 to -10 points, while the Richmond Fed manufacturing index fell from -8 to -20, a 10-month low. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he will meet his Chinese counterpart next week in Sweden to discuss what is anticipated to be an extension of an August 12th deadline for a deal to avert sharply higher tariffs. The worst case scenario is that tariffs on Chinese exports to the US snap back to 145% and 125% on US exports to China. Meanwhile, Scott Bessent has said there's no reason for the Federal Reserve Chair to step down, saying there's nothing that tells me that he should step down right now. His term ends in May. If he wants to see that through, I think he should. If he wants to leave early, I think he should. Well, this is despite President Trump again criticising Jerome Powell for not cutting interest rates, which saw US Treasury yields slip further. The 10-year down to 4.33%, the 2-year down to 3.83%. And the US dollar has continued its slide, particularly against the yen, ahead of Donald Trump's August 1st tariff deadline, with few deals on the table. The Aussie dollar has climbed back to 65.5 US cents. And Bitcoin has risen close to 120,000 US dollars. Oil prices have fallen for a third consecutive session as hopes fade for a trade deal between the US and Europe, stoking fears of an economic slowdown in the world's largest oil markets. Brent crude futures down more than 1% to $68 a barrel. Copper rose around 1.5%. Iron ore prices have rallied further, up close to 2% to $104 a tonne. And gold extending recent gains, drawing strength from trade uncertainty and a weaker US dollar and bond yields. Spot gold at $3,430 an ounce. Locally today, we get the Westpac Melbourne Institute leading index for June. And on the corporate calendar, quarterly updates are expected from Iluka Resources, Northern Star, Paladin, Woodside and Westgold. That's your day ahead. See you again tomorrow.